We have never seen Donald Trump and his defenders more panicked and terrified because today is the day that the House votes to release the Epstein files. And while Donald Trump publicly wants you to think that he is supportive of the measure, that he's pledged to sign it, that he's the one who wants transparency, that couldn't be further from the truth. Right now, Donald Trump, John Thune, Mike Johnson, and everyone in that White House are scheming for a last-ditch effort to block these files. And it is why Trump is freaking out, screaming, and lashing out while survivors tell their stories and demand justice today. We are going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we get into Trump's meltdown and what Mike Johnson just admitted, as well as an interview with Congressman Ro Khanna, I want to start with what the victims had to say today, especially this call out of Trump.
And to the President of the United States of America, who is not here today, I want to send a clear message to you. While I do understand that your position has changed on the Epstein files, and I'm grateful that you have pledged to sign this bill, I can't help to be skeptical of what the agenda is. So with that being said, I want to relay this message to you. I am traumatized. I am not stupid. I am traumatized. I am not stupid. You have put us through so much stress, the lockdowns, the halt of these procedures that were supposed to have happened 50 days ago. The Adelita Grijalva who waited to get sworn in and then get upset when your own party goes against you because what is being done is wrong. It's not right. For your own self-serving purposes, this is America. This is land of the free. Land of the free. In 1863, we have a woman on top of the Capitol building represent freedom. I do not feel free today. I don't know if the women behind me feel free today. So I am begging every member of Congress, every representative to step up and choose the chaos. Choose the survivors. Choose the children.
Donald Trump thinks that we are stupid. He does. That is what he thinks of all of us, but especially his MAGA base. He thinks that he can tell them that he's being transparent, and it's the Democrats who held this up, and it's Joe Biden who didn't release the Epstein files, and how it's all our fault, and that they will just believe him. But we are not stupid. We see what is happening right now. This is the most and least organized, at the same time, cover-up that I have ever seen of a crime. Donald Trump has employed everyone in his administration to help him try to hide the Epstein files, but at the same time, in doing so, he has brought more attention to the fact that he's a creep, more attention to the fact that he's a criminal, and more attention to the fact that he is blocking justice for these victims who understand that it is him getting in the way of the truth. And that is what they continue to say in this clip right here.
It is also not a hoax. We are here as American survivors of a man who used his wealth and power to hurt young girls and women. The world should see the files to know who Jeffrey Epstein was and how the system catered to him and failed us. Emotionally, this process has been distressing. First, the administration said it would release everything and then applauded President Trump for that. Then it fought to release nothing. Now that checks and balances of our democracy have worked and the bill is getting passed to release the files, we are hearing the administration say they intend to investigate various Democrats who were friends with Epstein. I beg you, President Trump, please stop making this political. It is not about you, President Trump. You are our president. Please start acting like it. Show some class, show some real leadership, show that you actually care about the people other than yourself. I voted for you, but your behavior on this issue has been a national embarrassment. It is time to take the honest, moral ground and support the release of these files, not to weaponize pieces of the files against random political enemies that did nothing wrong, but to understand who Epstein's friends were, who covered for him, what financial institutions allowed his trafficking to continue, who knew what he was doing but was too much of a coward to do anything about it.
It is obvious what Donald Trump is trying to do, and it is obvious that Donald Trump is scared, that Mike Johnson is scared, that they know what is coming. They've seen the files. They know what is going to be released. Why do you think they're talking about special Senate carve-outs? Because there are specific parts they really need to carve out. Donald Trump has already been humiliated at this point, but incriminated is the bit that he's really worried about, which I already actually think he has been. But it's why Trump is posting and screaming, as we can see right here. Trump wrote on Truth Social this morning in a meltdown, "The only healthcare I will support or approve sending the money directly back to the people, with nothing going to the big fat rich insurance companies who have made trillions and ripped off America long enough. The people will be allowed to negotiate and buy their own much better insurance. Power to the people. Congress, do not waste your time and energy on anything else. This is the only way to have great healthcare in America. Get it done now. President DJT." And the screaming didn't stop there, as we saw on Air Force One last night.
Sir,
yeah,
is there
Jennifer,
something
go ahead.
incriminating in the file, sir? Why not saying
When Donald Trump is terrified, he does a couple of things. Of course, scream at female reporters. That's no surprise. And shut up, piggy. Quiet, piggy. Have you looked at yourself in the mirror, you fat fuck? This is it's not a new low. This is all what he does. But it's just so gross, especially in this moment. And then the other thing, Trump promising everyone gets free cash. He has no actual health care plan. If Donald Trump wants to endorse Medicare for all, go for it. But he is just promising free cash. Why do you think he's talking about the tariff check, the tariff dividend? It's because that's what Trump leans on. When he feels his back up against the wall, it is just, like money, everyone's going to like me. But no one's going to like you. No one is going to like you as these Epstein files continue to be released, as Mike Johnson alluded to with this admission right here.
DOJ or the FBI has already reviewed it and determined it is not credible. It is false information. Doing this and requiring this to come out could ruin the reputations of completely innocent people, such as those who have may just have known Epstein but knew nothing of his crimes, or whose names he exploited. Think of this, innocent people whose names he exploited and used to try to get close to his intended victims. Their names may be in these files, and they had nothing to do with this. And so by just haphazardly releasing it, you're going to destroy their reputations.
Wait a second, Mike. What are you admitting there? That someone will have their life ruined by being mentioned in the Epstein files? We're smart enough to discern a mention, someone who bumped into Jeffrey Epstein at some dinner one time, and someone who is an accomplice to his crimes. We can discern those things if we have the full context of the Epstein files. But that's not what they want. They want us to be in the dark. They want us to not really know what's what. They want to be able to say, well, Trump was only mentioned here and that. We know what Trump did. We know that Trump committed crimes. But if everything's released, then we'll see the full scope of it. And that's what we all know. We're not stupid as much as Donald Trump thinks we are. We know that he is in these files even more than anyone else could have imagined. It is what these survivors are saying, that Donald Trump is responsible for blocking what is happening. And it is why they were so brave to stand up and call him out today. And it is why I am so grateful for Congressman Ro Khanna, who has been such a fierce advocate for these survivors. And I talked to him today, and I want to hear what he had to say about what the steps are going forward and whether or not we need to investigate if Donald Trump killed Epstein. You're going to want to stick around for that, so take a look.
Congressman Ro Khanna, thank you so much for joining me. You just left the second press conference that we have seen with the victims of Jeffrey Epstein's abuse. And I wanted to hear what you've heard from them. Obviously, they spoke out about the need for transparency. But what have you heard specifically about kind of Donald Trump's wishy-washy, release the files but don't? He's clearly on the back foot, and he's still calling it a hoax, but says maybe he wants them released. Aside from what we heard from the Epstein survivors today, what have you heard specifically about Donald Trump?
They want to meet him. They want him to release the files. They want the American people to understand that this was the most horrific crime, arguably, in this century and in America. I mean, you had an island of rape set up for rich and powerful people around the world who thought that the rules didn't apply for them. And the reality is, administration after administration, Congress after Congress, didn't do anything about it. These women have been denied justice for decades. And what they care about is not the politics. They care about accountability for people who raped underage girls and covered up for it.
And we've obviously, as Democrats, said that if that includes Democrats who were, donors to the party, public officials, former or current, it doesn't matter. We just want accountability. But Donald Trump is zeroing in on anyone who's his political enemy right now. He's saying that he's launching an investigation, or at least wants Pam Bondi to allegedly do so. A lot of people believe that that is a way for Donald Trump to maybe block the release of the files, to say that some of them are a part of an investigation, or when this vote eventually passes in the House, hopefully the Senate, Donald Trump using some veto, pocket veto. What do we need to be doing right now with that in mind, that Donald Trump will still, after this vote passes the House, be working overtime to block the Epstein files release?
We need to organize and mobilize and build the type of coalition that Thomas Massie and I put together. We've seen that that coalition caused Donald Trump to cave. While some in the Senate were caving to him, we got Donald Trump to cave to us. The reality is when we organize and when we're on the side of taking on the corrupt system, Donald Trump cannot be impervious to that. And so we need to build this movement until those files are released.
Yeah. And you talk about fracturing the MAGA coalition. Obviously, Trump going to war with Marjorie Taylor Greene, but certainly a lot of voters in his base as well. In the Trump era, I feel like the Democratic Party has worked so hard to bring in disaffected Republicans, and has done so by, lifting up a Liz Cheney or a Dick Cheney or the former Republican, but still an establishment type. Right now, progressives like yourself or Bernie Sanders have been reaching out to places that we never see Democrats go to. The Fight Oligarchy tour went to West Virginia. You're working across the aisle with Thomas Massie, bringing in Marjorie Taylor Greene. I kind of feel like I'm leading the witness a little bit with this question, but how do you think that progressives had so much more success in fracturing MAGA, maybe than kind of the centrist establishment Dem, establishment Republican duo has in the past? Why do you think that's been?
You're absolutely right. We need to be against an elite corrupt system instead of simply being against Donald Trump. Of course, we need to call out his lawlessness and assaults on the Constitution and people's rights. But what we need to do is respect voters who voted for MAGA and just are sick of a system that has betrayed them. They're sick of rich and powerful people getting one sense of justice while everyone else lives by another set of the rules. They're sick of an elite that outsourced their jobs. They're sick of an elite that has hoarded capital while their kids don't have access to the American dream. They're sick of an elite that doesn't live by basic values while they go to church and play Little League. And we need to be on the side of ordinary Americans, left or right, against a corrupt system. That is the progressive populist message. That is the only thing that is going to build an enduring coalition. We could win on an anti-Trump message, but that's not going to give us a governing coalition. What Bernie and I are talking about is doing the hard work to build an FDR coalition, a new realignment of American politics that actually can fight for ordinary Americans and forgotten Americans. It is the forgotten American class versus the Epstein class. We need to frame the debate in those terms.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you about that term that you've been using, the Epstein class, recently. When did that come to your mind? Is that just something that you kind of said, or is this something that you've been thinking about wanting to define, the pedophile protectors on one side, and kind of make that not just a Republican thing, but that of people who have entrenched power, and kind of align that with all the other issues of entrenched power that we want to take on? Is it something that just came to you, or were you looking for that type of definition?
Well, it came to me in conversation with a lot of people, but I've always felt that the most fair political split was what FDR did, where he said, I stand with forgotten Americans against the economic royalists. I believe our party today, the modern version of that, is we stand with forgotten Americans against the Epstein class. What is the Epstein class? They're rich and powerful people who contribute to politicians, who dine with bankers, and who think the rules don't apply to them. They have shafted ordinary Americans, and they have had impunity. And their time is over. What we really need is a politics that prioritizes forgotten Americans. That, to me, is the thread that the Democrats lost when we paraded out Liz Cheney, who's part of an establishment that's tired and has failed. And I believe if we recapture our populist roots, our William Jennings Bryan, FDR roots, who was seen as a traitor to his own class, if we're forgotten Americans over the Epstein class, we can rebuild a majority coalition.
And part of that is clearly, outlining the lie that Donald Trump told, at least that when he said the system was broken, he was saying it was broken and went after people like him rather than literally rewarding the very same people that we're talking about right now, billionaire criminals. We know the system is broken. It's part of the reason people voted for Donald Trump, because they believed that he would fix it rather than break it even more to reward himself. What other issues of this moment? AI comes to mind for me. Do you think kind of fits into that same narrative that we need to be talking about?
Well, say certainly that AI shouldn't just benefit the tech oligarchs. It should benefit all of us. AI for us, not just them. We should be the anti-war party, not striking boats off the coast of Venezuela, not giving Netanyahu a blank check, not getting into foreign wars. We should be the party against all kinds of corruption, including big money in our politics. We should be the party that is for rebuilding America, a 21st century Marshall Plan for America, building up our communities, our hollowed out towns, instead of shipping our jobs offshore. I call the whole thing a new economic patriotism. I believe that is the modern analog of a New Deal for our times. And this vote, in my view, is a proof of concept that what I've been talking about in terms of policy and going to rural towns and factory towns can actually work in the Congress, in the Senate, that it is not kind of a naive, idealistic vision. It works in the brass tacks execution.
Yeah, and especially when you tap into the questions that we're all asking about why our system is broken. One I think that has gone under the radar, and I want to close on this, is with regards to Epstein. Is there are still people asking questions? If we think back on that missing minute of the Epstein, prison tape about his death or his murder, there's I don't want to call these conspiracies anymore because we have asked so many questions that have been answered in these files. Do you think that there needs to be a revisiting of Epstein's time in prison as we continue to look through these files, and more questions need to be asked by the media, of the administration, of a Bill Barr, of people who worked in the first Trump presidency about this?
Yes, there definitely need to be more questions. I mean, we had a system where Epstein set up a rape island where some of the most powerful men in the world would go and visit and either engage in the trafficking of women or engage in the abuse of girls. And at the very least, they were friends with a guy they knew was doing this. Of course, it's one of the most corrupt and horrific scandals in American history. We need answers, and we need to realize that the American people are unsatisfied with those investigations.
Yeah, I think that we need to look into all of this. The questions that we ask, in my opinion, need to continue to get as dark as the answers that we've been given are. I appreciate all the work that you've been doing, not just to bring us together in fighting against this, but to fracture MAGA in a way that proves that we can actually come together. I know that seems a little antithetical. You have to break up one political movement for us to have unity, but it is the case. I appreciate you doing that work, Congressman.
Thank you, Jack, for your voice.